Have you ever noticed that the older people get, the more they can see through things that used to impress everyone? And have you ever wondered why some elders look calm and steady, while others feel trapped in worry, even when their lives look fine on the outside? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to talk about old age in a way that does not treat it like a sad ending or a slow fade. We are going to treat it like a sharpening of focus, like a lens finally finding the right distance. The main idea is that aging can either scatter your attention into fear and regret, or gather your attention into wisdom and peace. And the difference is not luck. The difference is practice. Quiet practice. Daily practice. The kind of practice that does not need applause. Let me start with a story that feels ordinary on the surface but holds a deep teaching inside it. There was an elder named Daniel who lived in a small apartment above a busy street. The city never stopped talking. Sirens far away. Late night laughter. Early morning deliveries. Daniel used to complain about all of it. When he was younger, he could outwork the noise. He could drown it with schedules and ambition and coffee. But now his body asked for a slower rhythm. And the noise felt like it was not only outside his window, but also inside his mind. He had recently retired, and retirement surprised him. Not because he missed work tasks, but because he did not know where to place his attention when no one demanded it. For decades his attention had been rented out. Meetings, deadlines, emails, problems that arrived prepackaged. Now he had hours that belonged to him, and that ownership made him uneasy. It is strange but true. Many people learn to fear freedom because freedom forces you to face yourself. One afternoon, Daniel went to a community center because his neighbor insisted he try a meditation session. Daniel did not think of himself as spiritual. He thought spiritual people were either saints or dreamers. He was neither. He was practical. But he also felt tired of carrying a mind that never rested. So he went. The room was simple. Chairs in a circle. A small table. A kettle. A teacher named Mira who spoke softly but clearly. Mira began not with grand promises but with one sentence that landed like a stone in water. She said, "Old age is not a problem to solve. It is a truth to meet." Daniel did not like that at first. He wanted solutions. He wanted methods that could guarantee comfort. But Mira continued. She said there are a few lessons that become easier to understand when you have lived long enough to see patterns repeat. These lessons are not decorations for the mind. They are tools for the heart. Daniel listened, not because he believed everything, but because something in him recognized the tone. Mira was not selling him anything. She was pointing toward reality. In the weeks that followed, Daniel returned again and again. Not because he became suddenly perfect, but because he began to feel something new. A small space inside his chest that used to be tight. A small quiet inside his thoughts that used to be crowded. He started to see that the practice was not about becoming someone else. It was about returning to what was already true beneath all the noise. The first lesson Daniel learned was about impermanence. Mira did not present it as a depressing idea. She presented it as a gentle instruction on how to stop arguing with life. She would say, everything that comes will go. Health, youth, seasons, relationships as they used to be, even the identity you carry. When Daniel heard that, his first reaction was sadness, because he loved many things. He loved his memories. He loved the feeling of being strong. He loved being needed. But then Mira asked him a question. She said, does impermanence make love meaningless, or does it make love urgent and precious? Daniel sat with that. He realized that some of his sweetest memories were sweet exactly because they did not last. The laughter at a family dinner. The way his mother used to hum while cooking. The feeling of holding his child when she was small. If those moments lasted forever, they might become background noise. Their impermanence made them shine. Daniel began practicing a simple habit. Each day he noticed one thing changing. A leaf turning color. A wrinkle deepening. A sound disappearing into distance. At first this made him uneasy. Then it made him honest. Then it made him grateful. He started to see that life was not betraying him. Life was simply life. The second lesson arrived through suffering, because that is often how lessons arrive when we are stubborn. Daniel had a friend named Paul who was also retired. Paul spent his days complaining. He complained about the government. He complained about young people. He complained about prices. He complained about his knees. He complained about doctors. It was like complaining had become his main hobby. Daniel used to join him, because complaining can feel like connection. To people, sharing frustration can feel like friendship. But after a few weeks of meditation, Daniel noticed something. After spending an hour with Paul, his mind felt sticky, heavy. After spending an hour in meditation, his mind felt clearer, softer. He realized that attention is like water. It takes the shape of whatever container you pour it into. If you pour your attention into bitterness, you will live in bitterness. If you pour your attention into gratitude, you will live in gratitude. Mira explained this as the lesson of right attention, not the kind of attention that is always tense and effortful, the kind that is intentional. She said focus is not only a mental skill, it is an ethical skill, because what you focus on grows in you. If you focus on what you cannot control, anxiety grows. If you focus on what you can do right now, steadiness grows. If you focus on comparing yourself to others, envy grows. If you focus on being of benefit, compassion grows. Daniel tested this in real life. He would wake up and notice his mind reaching for worry. He would feel the urge to read news immediately and let fear choose the tone of his day. Instead, he would sit for a few minutes and feel his breath. He would place a hand on his chest and say quietly, "This moment is here. This moment is enough to begin." That small shift did not solve everything, but it changed the flavor of his day. He still had problems. He still had aches, but he did not add unnecessary suffering by letting his attention run wild. The third lesson came when Daniel visited his daughter. His daughter lived in a suburb with her family. 2 kids. Busy life. Daniel used to feel useless there. When he was younger, he could help with big things. Fixing something. Lifting heavy objects. Solving financial issues. Now the kids ran faster than him. The house was full of technology he did not fully understand. He felt like a guest from an older world. One evening he sat on the couch while the family moved around him. He felt invisible. A familiar pain rose in him. The pain of not being central. The pain of fading importance. The old Daniel would have tried to regain control by giving advice, by criticizing, by making himself necessary through conflict. But he remembered Mira speaking about non-attachment. She said non-attachment does not mean you stop loving. It means you stop demanding that love takes a certain shape. You stop demanding that you are always needed in the same way. You stop demanding that life keeps you in the spotlight. That night, Daniel chose a different approach. He asked his granddaughter to show him a game she liked. She laughed because he was slow at it. He laughed too, and something softened. His granddaughter climbed onto his lap and leaned her head against his chest for a few seconds. In that moment, Daniel felt useful again, but not in the old way. He felt useful simply by being calm and safe. He felt useful by being present. On the dock back home, he realized a truth that many people learn too late. Your value is not your speed. Your value is your heart. And old age can be the time when your heart finally becomes the main skill you offer. The fourth lesson was about compassion. And it surprised Daniel because he thought compassion was just being nice. Mira showed him that compassion is much deeper. Compassion is the courage to stay open even when life gives you reasons to close. Daniel had been hard on himself for years. When he made mistakes, he insulted himself. When he aged, he judged himself. When he forgot something, he felt shame. Mira invited him to notice how he spoke to himself and asked him, "Would you speak to a child this way?" Daniel felt embarrassed because the answer was no. So he practiced self-compassion, not as indulgence, but as honesty. He learned to say, "This is hard, and I can be kind while it is hard." He learned to treat his body like a lifelong friend rather than a machine that should never break. This compassion began to spill outward. He became more patient with strangers. When someone cut in line, he felt irritation, but he could breathe and let it pass. When a cashier was slow, he could smile instead of rushing. These moments seem small, but they are the real monastery, the real practice hall. One day on the bus, he saw an elderly woman struggling to stand. No one moved. Daniel stood and offered his seat. The woman looked into his eyes and said, "Thank you." And the way she said it was not casual. It was like she was saying, "I see you." Daniel sat elsewhere and felt a warmth that lasted all day. Compassion gave him a sense of belonging that pride never could. The fifth lesson came through the idea of karma, but not as superstition. Mira explained karma as the way intention shapes experience, not only in some future lifetime, but right now in the mind you inhabit. She said, when you practice anger, anger becomes your default home. When you practice gratitude, gratitude becomes your default home. When you practice generosity, you feel rich even with little. When you practice stinginess, you feel poor even with much. These are not moral slogans. They are psychological facts. Daniel began to see his life as a garden. His habits were seeds. His repeated thoughts were water. His actions were sunlight or shade. Old age, then, was not only harvest. It was also still planting. He could still plant peace. He could still plant patience. He could still plant forgiveness. He tried a simple practice. Each evening he asked himself, what did I plant today? Did I plant kindness or did I plant resentment? Did I plant honesty or did I plant avoidance? Did I plant calm or did I plant drama? He did not use this to punish himself. He used it to learn. Slowly his days became cleaner. Not perfect, but cleaner. Like a room that is regularly swept. The sixth lesson was the hardest and the most freeing. It was about letting go of the self-story. Daniel realized that much of his suffering came from repeating the same internal sentences. I am too old. I am not useful. I missed my chance. People do not respect me. My best years are gone. These sentences were not facts. They were stories, and he had been telling them so often that they felt like reality. Mira taught him to watch these stories like clouds. You do not need to fight clouds. You do not need to chase them. You simply see them and let them pass. She said the self is not a solid statue. It is a moving process. When you stop clinging to a fixed identity, you become lighter. Daniel practiced this when he looked in the mirror. Instead of searching for the younger face and grieving its absence, he looked at the current face and asked, what does this face know? It knows loss. It knows love. It knows endurance. It knows laughter that survived hardship. It knows how to begin again. That recognition changed something deep. He stopped seeing wrinkles as damage and started seeing them as evidence of living. Now let me bring all these lessons together. Because in real life, they are not separate. They weave into one cloth. One morning, Daniel woke up with pain in his back. He felt frustration rising. Then he remembered impermanence. Bodies change. He remembered right attention. Focus on what I can do now. He remembered non-attachment. I do not have to demand that today feels like yesterday. He remembered compassion. Speak gently to myself. He remembered karma. If I add anger, I plant more suffering. He remembered letting go of self-story. I do not have to become the victim of this sensation. So he stretched slowly. He made tea. He sat by the window and watched the street wake up. He felt the pain and did not turn it into a tragedy. He did not pretend it was pleasant. He simply did not build a second layer of suffering on top of it. That is wisdom, not dramatic, quiet, real. Another day, Daniel met Paul again, the friend who complained. Paul started his usual routine, saying everything is getting worse and life is unfair. Daniel listened with kindness, but he did not join the spiral. He asked Paul a simple question. What is one thing that still brings you peace? Paul went quiet. He looked surprised. He struggled to answer. Daniel realized that Paul had been practicing complaint so long that he forgot how to look for peace. Daniel did not judge him. He felt compassion. He gently shared how meditation helped him. Paul shrugged at first, but later he came once to the community center. Then again. This is how compassion spreads. Not through preaching, but through presence. I want to pause and speak to you directly now. Because you might be thinking, this sounds nice, but what about real fear? Fear of illness, fear of losing independence, fear of loneliness, fear of death. Buddhist wisdom does not deny these fears. It invites you to meet them with clarity. Fear grows in darkness. When you shine awareness on it, it becomes workable. Illness may come, but you can prepare your mind by practicing acceptance and patience now. Losing independence may happen, but you can strengthen your relationships and your humility now. So receiving help does not feel like humiliation. Loneliness may arise, but you can cultivate inner companionship through mindfulness and compassion now. So solitude does not automatically become despair. Death will come, but remembering impermanence can turn your days into something more alive rather than more anxious. Daniel learned that peace is not a place you reach once and then keep forever. Peace is a direction, a returning, like coming back to the breath again and again, like coming back to kindness again and again, like coming back to what matters again and again. He also learned something surprising. Old age can be a doorway into joy that is less dependent on conditions. When you stop chasing endless novelty, you start noticing depth. When you stop needing to win, you start appreciating. When you stop building identity from achievements, you start building identity from virtues. When you stop arguing with reality, you start cooperating with it. There is a kind of inner strength that only arrives when you have been humbled by life and you choose not to become bitter. This strength is not loud. It does not dominate. It simply stands steady. You can feel it in certain elders when they speak. Their words are fewer, but each word carries weight. Their eyes are softer, but not weak. Their laughter is quieter, but it feels clean. I have seen this in people around me. One person I knew spent years chasing status. When retirement came, he fell into sadness because the applause stopped. But later he began volunteering at a hospital, visiting patients who had no family nearby. He told me that those conversations changed him. He said, when you sit with someone who might not have much time left, all the fake problems disappear. Only love remains. Only presence remains. Only kindness remains. Another person I knew feared aging so much that she tried to freeze time with constant self-improvement. But she was always tense. Later, she began a simple practice of gratitude each morning. She would name 3 things she appreciated: her hands, her tea, her friend who texted her, her ability to breathe. Over months, she became softer. She still cared for her health, but she stopped treating her body like an enemy. That change made her look younger in a strange way, not because time reversed, but because peace brightened her face. This is the gentle secret. When the mind relaxes, the whole life looks different. So if you take anything from this video, take this. Old age is a powerful teacher if you let it teach you. It teaches impermanence so you stop clinging. It teaches right attention so you stop wasting your mind. It teaches non-attachment so you stop demanding life obey your ego. It teaches compassion so you stop hardening. It teaches karma so you start planting wisely. It teaches letting go of self-story so you become free inside. Even when the body is limited, and you do not need to wait, you can start now. You can start by noticing one moment today where you are clinging, one moment where you are comparing, one moment where you are harsh with yourself. And in that moment you can soften, you can breathe, you can choose a wiser response. That is practice. That is the path. Thank you for being here with me. If any part of this spoke to your life, I want to hear from you. What is one lesson about aging that you learned from someone you respect? Or what is one fear about the future that you are trying to meet with courage? Share your thoughts and your stories in the comments. And if you want more long-form reflections on mindfulness, wisdom, compassion, cause and effect in the inner path, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and support the community by leaving a comment. Your presence here matters more than you think. Until next time, take a slow breath, let your shoulders drop, and remember that peace is not somewhere else. Peace is the way you meet what is here.